Welcome to GLV Services, how to negotiate successful international contracts. Well, that's an important thing. And GLV Service, we will provide you with practical tools to negotiate international contracts effectively, minimizing legal risks, and optimizing benefits for both parties. This is important in the negotiation of international contracts. Remember this: by minimizing legal risks and optimizing benefits for both parties. This is very important. Welcome back to another episode of GLV Service. Today, we will talk about a topic that can make a difference between a successful business and one full of setbacks. How to negotiate successful international contracts. We invite you to follow us on social networks, to follow us on YouTube, to follow us on Instagram, to follow us on EN. But above all, share these YouTube videos. Follow us, share this information with you, people who want to do international business or that are in your vicinity. Share with us so that we can reach all these people who want to learn on international business. Okay, in global trade, contracts are the of any sell. Effective negotiation not only protects your interests, but also establishes a solid relationship with your business partners. Accompany me while we break down the key points to achieve this. Okay, in this part, what do we have important already? Something very clear must be made here. If you do not have a clear contract, if you do not have clear conditions, you will have a lot of mishaps, both as an exporter and importer. That must be very clear to you. We must take advantage of the knowledge that both of them have to discuss these parts. In that part, you should discuss with your supplier. What are the terms and conditions of sale of it? Because it may favor you. How can it not be in your favor? And it is necessary to be clear. In the market, conditions can be negotiable, but always the seller is going to have the frying pan by the handle. Always the seller is going to set his conditions, because he is the seller. He is the owner of the current product, as well as when you bring it to your market, and you are going to sell it. You sell it under the conditions that favor you. In the sale, the buyer must accept most of these conditions to access your product. Why? Because that is what the business that sells is all about. He who invests is in control until the other buys it, is once again in control over what he bought. Then, to be clear, that is one of the key points for this. Then let's go with all the additional ones there are. To be clear, key points of an international contract. Here we are going to take some time for this part. Why? Because it is important. An international contract must cover essential points, and these essential points are one of the definition of key terms. Key terms. For those of us working in international trade, we know when we refer to terms, which includes terms such as FO, SIF or CF, making sure that both parties understand them. This must be made clear. Both parties must understand the terms. Sometimes there are people entering international business, but does not know the word terms. Terms in the international business refers to the terms and conditions of sale as such. The seller decides to sell at FOG. What it means to sell at FOG. Sell in port destination with port origin, with documents. Sell in shift. What it means to sell in shift. Sell at port destination with documents. Shift includes insurance and costs. That includes shift. That includes selling in shift. The CF is a term we use for when the product has X cost. We sell in CF. What does it mean? That we deliver to you at Puerto Destin, but we do not include insurance. The insurance, you decide how much to insure of your goods. This must be clear. Second, clear specific responsibilities. Who is in charge of what, to make it clear to them. From transportation to insurance. In this part, you must clarify who will be in charge of transportation. That's where the terms come in. Terms for terms shift and terms CF. Here in this part of the export, we do not touch the terms by D. We only touch on these three terms. Why? Because they are the most crucial in the term, and are the most commonly used today on the subject of international negotiations. What this refers to refers very simply that you must be clear about Who will assume the cost of transportation? Be transportation. If it is in Ford, who takes over the transport? If your customer is going to pick you up he is going to send the container to the trash. Example to us, if you're going to buy us and I'm going to sell you at Ford. Then I say come. If you can pick up the product at our customs. Then I give you the address, for you to know your carrier. With the container, we fill it from and deliver it to you. From that moment on you must cancel our lunch. If there is a property within the business, taking into account the type of product that we are handling now. Terms if we do what? We tell our transporter to pick up the product in our warehouse, take it to the port and deliver it to you at the port. Destiny now term CF. The same term CIF, but one condition changes. In the term CIF, we include the cost of insurance within the contract. In the term HATAG 36, which is the one we use the most for export. What we do is that you die to UCF. But you have to pay the insurance when the carrier picks us up. The product takes you to the port. They communicate with you and tell you, look, the product is above such value. Invoices are on this. The cost of insurance is as much. How much you wish to insure about this merchandise. It must be clear that this part, you must define it with the carrier. If you do not define that term with them, because they load your merchandise, if something happens, it must be clear, which is the responsibility of the buyer. In terms CF. To be clear to you. Another equally important point are local or international regulations. Many intermediaries within this business talk about purchases of thousands of tons, million tons, hundreds of thousands of tons. The truth that is Wednesday, that is a lie. That is, as they commonly say, shit. That no, it is not so. Why? Because local regulations, international, sometimes prevent that a product can enter in excessive quantities to a country that must be made clear. Then when a person wishes to buy or import, you must be clear that in order to organize in contract must be clear the regulations of the destination country that corresponds to us as a GLV service. Investigate to make a brief investigation of the basic conditions to enter the product. We are not responsible whether the product is left or not. Let him enter your country or to the country of destination. That is not us responsible. That is within the contract, and that is part of the regulations or important part of the contract. The seller is not responsible if the product does not enter the destination country. Why? For the following: because they do not have the permits, because they are not distributed of the product, because they do not comply with the regulations of the destination country. This must be clear. Us as vendors, we deliver the product documentation, part and without novelty or part. From there the responsibility that must remain within the contract in order to be successful. This and that the responsibilities are clear. When you are going to buy GRB service, it is necessary to take into account how many tons you can enter your country. If this product has free transit, if that product has an appearance, whether you must apply for permits from the Ministry of Agriculture, whether you must apply for health registration permits. All these documents, you must be clear about them before making a contract. Why? Because there are food products, as those who manage GRB that have services, restrictions, that must have X certifications. And it's not because we do have them to be able to deliver to you, but from whom you are going to buy. This information must be clear. That should be clear to you, because otherwise you will have problems. Well, we continue with the topic. Here we are going to make one brief recount on how this issue works for the Caribbean area. Then we go with the following. In the markets in the Caribbean, remember that it is crucial to specify delivery conditions. Due to high humidity, that may affect certain products. Allows me to. This is a packaged product. This is sugar. If I am going to ship to the Caribbean area paper-packed sugar, I must take into account how comfortable it is to be packed. This packaging that I have here is not in the points. On these points are very clear and very crucial to have it very specific. Now, negotiation strategies. Here we are going to take some time, between 10 and 15 minutes or so. We are going to take this time to learn a little bit about this contract issue. Negotiate a contract is not only to make sure you get the best price. This must be clear. Also is to ensure that both parties feel that they have won. Here we are going to give you some effective strategies to make them clear. What happens many focus on, in which they must obtain the best price, and that this is the best business of all. It turns out that sometimes get the best price, not the best business ever, because you can get something you don't want. And the contractual part is where you define what you want. An example: many people complain about shopping in China, because in China they go and buy and negotiate an offer. And it turns out that they end up buying very inexpensive things, but at the end of the day, when the goods arrive to them, when the goods arrive, receive what they bought, something very cheap, very economical, but it does not meet the quality they expected. When they call the supplier and require the supplier tells "Hey, look, you, I talked to you and told you that for that price I could give that quality. If you wanted better quality, it will obviously cost you more." This must be clear, so that we can move forward with these issues, and we can continue with these issues. It is important that we know well now. Meet the customer. Investigates your business culture. In the Middle East, for example, negotiations usually include long previous conversations. That's something I'm used to doing. In the Far East already, or especially in the Arab or Middle East. In this part, sometimes you negotiate a contract for several days, for the customer to start you in 10 containers, but ends up buying you a container. That is normal. For us it is normal for you to come to us. That customers arrive telling us, "Look, I want to buy you so many tons of sugar, so many tons of garbage, so many tons of beans, so many tons of pasta." And they talk to you about 1000T2000, but I do not focus as CEO of GLV. I do not focus in which you are going to buy me that big volume. I don't even get excited to let you know for sure. If you plan to be a customer of ours and you're going to talk to me about thousands of tons, I'm not going to get excited about that business. I would rather you buy me a container. One container. That's where the priority for us really is. Now, that's our priority now. Next point. Define your priorities. What is negotiable and what is non-negotiable? This will avoid wasting time on irrelevant points. This is very important. Within the international trade business, what is negotiable and what is non-negotiable? Look for a local intermediary, especially in Africa. Have a reliable intermediary, can greatly simplify the process. Then, to be clear here, what do we have to do when we have a local intermediary? That helps us manage misfortunes. To manage all these things, because it greatly simplifies the processes. Why? Because it makes this really pay off. This part must be very clear and very. Why? Because if you get involved in an international purchase and wait for the product to arrive in order to carry out the nationalization procedures, and you guys are going to have a lot of problems, and you will have a lot of delays, and possibly that price you managed to get exclusive, unique, differential in any product you purchase, you will lose it with container parking times in the customs yards. You will lose it in additional costs for not really knowing the conditions. When you negotiate this contract, both exporter and importer, the conditions must be clear, in which both the sale and purchase will be carried out. If this does not make it clear, obviously they will have problems later on. Good. To this day, we are dealing with this very important topic, international contract negotiation. In the next one, we will continue with this theme. Let's talk about practical cases and lessons learned on this subject. Follow us on social networks. Follow us on YouTube. Share our content, because this is very important to you and very important to improve credibility in international business. Remember only to negotiate with cash. Only buy real products. Don't believe in appearances, and you're not going to become a billionaire selling a complete vessel full of sugar, or filled with beans, or filled with rice. Remember, these businesses are done with cash only. Follow us. Share. GLV service is here to help you.